And welcome back to Mad Mad's Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing the second installment of Maze Runner, Scorch Trials. Now I want to start off by saying that this movie is entirely different from the book. They might as well have been two completely different things. It's really not even close. I did read the entire series, and the movie and the book were both very good, but they're also very different. I don't know if the writers actually read the book, but they did decide to change almost every part of the book. They kept a lot of the main characters the same, but how they told the story was different. I'm actually going to be putting up another video later talking about the differences between the book and the movie. But even with all the changes from the book to the movie, this film was still a very enjoyable movie. Overall, there was a lot of action, there's a lot of adventure. Even the villain, the main villain of this movie, I've really never seen him in anything that I can recall. He might have done some smaller roles here or there. He was a really menacing villain, but he was also sort of likable because everything they're doing, Wicked believes that they're doing for the greater good. And even if you don't agree with it, they're trying to technically save humanity. So in their heads, the idea that sacrificing a few kids here or there, maybe even a few thousand kids to save the entire human race is a worthwhile endeavor. Dylan O'Brien, the guy who played Thomas, the main character in this film, did a very great job. He actually pulled off a lot of action sequences in the film that were pretty well done. But most of the movie, as you might expect from the original, is a lot of running. There's a lot of running. I mean, they're not really running through a maze, or they're running through a city this time around, but they're going against these things that are kind of like zombies. They're basically people that are infected with the flare, which is the disease that Wicked is trying to fight against. Eventually, basically, when you have the flare, your body slowly deteriorates, your mind deteriorates even faster, and you really just get filled with this sort of hunger. They actually remind me a lot of, if you remember the I Am Legend kind of movie zombies things that they were in there. They remind me a lot of that, just with Hawaiian shirts in a lot of scenes. Seriously, watch it and let me know what you think, because that's what they remind me of, is just I Am Legend zombies. But they were running away from all these villains. The craziest thing is they're in a city that's a lot of, they have those people that are really far gone, that are these zombies that are chasing them, but they have people that are just kind of either poor and just staying in this town because they have nowhere else to go, or they're infected with the flare and they're just kind of waiting to die. So you kind of get a look of this crazy, gritty city that is in turmoil. That's really, it's crazy thing, they end up going to this nightclub at one point, which was like the only clean-ish place out there. I didn't really get that whole scene. They do it in the book as well, but it just seemed kind of out of place in this movie, especially after you've gotten through all these gunfights and running away and nearly dying, and all of a sudden they're just in a club and they get drugged. It seemed really out of place. I wish they would have gave that scene a little more context. But on the plus side, because of that scene, we got to see Dutch, who is probably the low-key one of the best actors and most unknown actors ever. He's been in a lot of films. He did the voice of King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph. He played Dutch in one of the Transformers films, I believe. I don't remember which one specifically. I think it was Transformers 3, which is why we call him Dutch. We really liked his character for some reason in that movie. But he's done a lot of low-key roles. He played Steve the Pirate. That's probably one of his bigger roles, at least if you're into comedy. So I really enjoyed seeing him in this film. He played a really, really small role, but it's always cool to see him in a film. I honestly really didn't like Teresa's character in this movie. In the book, she betrays Thomas just like she sort of did in the movie. The biggest differences to me are the fact that when she betrays him in the book, it's not for the greater good or for her own reasons. It's really just to keep Thomas safe. And whether or not he agrees with that logic, it's still logical and it still makes sense, at least to me from a reader's perspective. In the movie, she's really just betraying everyone and getting everyone killed because she's selfish. That's really all her character boils down to. And another thing I didn't like about the whole betrayal thing is that it was a little too obvious. They set it up really early in the movie and hinted at it heavily. They were almost beating you over the head with it constantly. It really was too obvious. It made the kind of climax of the movie a little too easy to tell what was going to happen. And they laid it on a little thick. That was my biggest issue with the film, is that they laid that part on a little thick. Her character actually did pretty well in it, though. She was believable in terms of, the reason she betrayed them in the first place was because her mother had gotten the flare at one point, and she didn't want anyone else to suffer the way her mother did and deteriorate the way her mother did. So she thinks, like Wicked, that having to sacrifice some kids for the greater good is going to be the best course of action, so no one else has to suffer or die. So I get some of her motivations in the film. They just laid it on a little too much for me. and I wish they would have been a little more subtle with it. Now, one of the positives to come out of the movie as opposed to the book is that I feel like they give Wicked a more menacing vibe. They seem a lot more evil in the movie than they are in the book. Again, and they do give you the reasons why they're doing this, and it's all logical, it all makes sense, but they come off a lot more menacing, a lot crazier, because in the book, how it ends up happening in the Scorch trial is basically they take these two different mazes and they kind of pit them against each other and say, hey, you guys are all infected with the flare. The only way to get cured is to go from point A to point B within so many days. I don't remember the exact time frame. And they really just set up all these different trials for the kids. That's why it's called the Scorch Trials, which is like there's no trial in this movie. But in this case, it's really just the kids running away in the movie and trying to escape this menacing, this crazy sort of syndicate business, whatever you want to call them, that seem kind of overpowering, like they're like some crazy overlords. They're like Big Brother to the extreme. So they really made them a lot more menacing. They kind of come in guns blazing. They have no qualms killing people, except for the main characters for some reason. But they do, I mean, they're crazier. They're way stronger. They're way more, I think, sadistic. Whereas you really don't get that vibe in the book. So it kind of gives you a more feel of like dread whenever they're around, because you don't know what they're gonna do. They just seem evil. Even if their plans do have some merit to them, you get the idea that they're too far gone in a way. Like they're too engrossed in their goal to see what they're doing is really evil, super evil. These guys are fucked up, really fucked up. And the side characters were really fun in this movie as well, particularly Minho. If you remember him from the first book, he was basically kind of the veteran maze runner who was literally all cardio. And one of the funnier scenes in the movie, at least I found funny, was like literally when they go to this camp for gladers in the beginning of the movie, they put him on a treadmill right away, which if I was Minho, I'd be kind of pissed off because I just spent literally 2 years running in the maze every day, and then you have me running some more. I would be pissed about it. That's just me. Although I'm a big guy, I don't like running in the first place. But his character is a lot of fun in this movie because he just seems kind of exhausted and tired of everybody. So if any turn, any event that happens, he ends up being really sarcastic and just reacting kind of aggressively towards it. There was one cool scene in the movie that I thought where basically, if you remember the first movie when he sort of side attacks one of the grievers. He sort of does that to a human in this movie. He doesn't kill him, but he essentially just kind of runs at them as they're going around this corner in a corridor and just knees them straight into a wall. And you kind of felt the impact on that. But his character was a lot of fun in this movie. And a lot of the side characters are actually really fun in this movie. They brought back Fry Pan and also Newt, which I think are really low-key, really good actors in this movie. Now, we did rate the movie at madmazreviews.com. I'll leave a link down in the description below. We rated it a 60 out of 100. If you want to get more detail as to why we rated it that, please go again look at that review. It goes in a little more depth as to why. A small reason, at least I think, that we rated it a little bit lower is because as far as a linear story, it really didn't do very well. It was kind of all over the place, both in terms of landscape as well as how they chose to tell the story. You went from like a nightclub to a city to a desert back to the city again. It was really all over the place. You don't really get a sense of the distance that these guys are traveling. It could have been a couple miles. It could have been 100 miles. I really wish they would have done that a little better in the movie. And thanks again for stopping by another Mad Maz Reviews. Feel free to like us on Facebook, as well as our new Twitter page that we just opened up about a week ago. Again, feel free to visit our website at madmazreviews.com for more content. We put not only movie reviews, but also news articles as well on there. And we look forward to seeing you next time.